I do have informants running on WhatsApp channels on the back end. So I hope that information is correct. Yeah, and I hope everyone's doing super well. And I think we should just get started with our first speaker of the day, which will be Caitlin, and hand it over to our esteemed group of moderators to welcome and introduce Caitlin. Caitlin is a personal friend, so I will just disclose that. A big fan of her writing and practice, but I will definitely pass it over to our moderators to introduce Caitlin. So whom am I giving the mic to at this moment? Is Avril or Nishta wanting to?
Yes, they're with me. They were just trying to put their system. Maybe they'll come here.
Okay.
We'll just take 2 more minutes.
Okay, no problem. Yeah, and just so you know, just maybe another word of housekeeping. So our final seminar of this session will be on November 6th. And for that, this was quite an intense period of seminars, as you've noticed. That's largely due to just the complexities of scheduling between, the different holiday calendars between the Netherlands and India, between our different schools, our different class times. But for that, we'll also be calling upon a student group to help moderate. But we'll be a little bit more organized with that and get a sign-up sheet out so that it'll be a little bit more advanced notice. But we are hoping as well that we can have some of you do the facilitation of that last seminar event.
Okay, Avil has joined. And
Wonderful.
Hi, everyone.
Hi, Avril.
Good afternoon.
I'm going to pass it over to you. I'm going to pass it over to you, okay? Thank you so much for moderating.
Apologies, though, I was a little late. I had to come running to the studio. I didn't know. Yes, so I shall begin. So today's first speaker is Caitlin Berrigan, and I will give a brief introduction on her work and basically what she's been working on in the past few years. Caitlin Berrigan works as an artist, filmmaker, and writer. Her work unfolds the complexity of interrelations across humans and other beings within spatial ecologies, technologies, and systems of capitalism. Her early works address viruses and the choreographies of capitalism and contagion. Recent works explore poetics and queer science fiction as world-making practices through instruments, films, and new media. Her extensive speculative cosmology, Imaginary Explosions, blends research, science with art and fiction alongside emerging media instruments and new technologies. The episodic series centers geological animacies as trans feminist scientists cooperate with the desires of the mineral earth to simultaneously erupt all volcanoes. The work has been the subject of a book, Broken Dimanche Press, 2018, solo shows at Joan Los Angeles 2023, and Art in General 2019, reviewed in Art Forum, and a world premiere in the Berlinale Forum Expanded Exhibition 2020. She has presented her work at the Whitney Museum, Poetry Project, Henry Art Gallery, Union Docks, Harvard Carpenter Center, Anthology Film Archives, LA La Casa Encendida, Ashkal Alwan, and Goldsmiths, among other international venues. Her experimental writings are published by E-Flux Georgia, March, Duke University Press, and Broken Dimanche Press. She has received fellowships and residencies from Creative Capital, the Humboldt Foundation, Skowhegan Graham Foundation, and Academy Schloss Solitude. Currently a senior postdoctoral fellow at the Academy of Fine Arts in Vienna, Berrigan has held full-time and visiting faculty positions at NYU Tisch, Caltech, Bard College Berlin, Harvard, and UMass Boston. So a very warm welcome to our first speaker, Caitlin Berrigan.
Thank you so much, Avril, for the introduction, and to everybody for the invitation and your attention. And so nice to be in conversation with you and with the other guests, Neha. So I'm going to put a little timer on myself because I have like quite a sprawling amount of work to share with you. So if I get, too into the weeds, then just give me a little heads up, and then we can always go further into discussions with Q&A. So I'm going to start by sharing my screen with you, and playing in the background one of the first videos that I made as part of this work, Imaginary Explosions, which is the primary body of work, which I call a cosmology, that I'm going to share with you today. As mentioned in Avril's introduction, the work is primarily around intimacies with inhuman entities. And in this case, in Imaginary Explosions, it's about geological forces and volcanoes. But of course, a lot of my other work has to do with other more than human forms and inhuman forms, also not living, including viruses and microbes and particulate matter that all have a kind of interrelation with our bodies and how we perceive the world. And a kind of primary focus that I'm going to talk about today is that a lot of the information that we receive about these worlds and these other forces, and also the concept of planetarity itself, are formed and shaped by media technologies and media science. And those are often forms of knowledge that we receive mediated through power systems, through techno-governance, through corporate information. So the work is kind of about how to intervene within these sort of science fictions that are presented to us as evidentiary, and can be also received that way as evidentiary kind of information, but also how we can then form other worlds and other ideas within it that have an alternative world-making possibility to those that are framed by dominant power paradigms. And the first kind of video that I'll share is kind of a manifesto around this concept, a poetic manifesto. And so hopefully the video won't be too glitchy for you, but also that might be a new aesthetic. Okay, so can somebody just tell me if you can see my screen okay?
Yes.
Yeah, perfect.
Okay, great. And I am also now unable to see you at all. So, okay. Are you still seeing my screen?
Yes, we're all good.
Yes.
Okay, actually, sorry, I can't see you. So let me just try a different layout. Um, hmm.
Oh, fancy.
Okay, well, I still can't see you, but whatever. Go
We
with
see
it.
you now in the bottom corner, and your video is like as if you're a weathercaster.
Okay, lovely.
Yeah.
So to begin, I just want to have a little quote from a brilliant world maker, Ursula K. Le Guin, from her introduction to The Left Hand of Darkness. She says, "Science fiction is not predictive, it is descriptive. The artist deals with what cannot be said in words. The artist whose medium is fiction does this in words. The novelist says in words what cannot be said in words. Words can be used thus paradoxically because they have, along with a semiotic usage, a symbolic or a metaphoric usage. All fiction is metaphor. Science fiction is metaphor. The future in fiction is a metaphor. A metaphor for what? Well, if I could have said it non-metaphorically, I would not have written all these words, this novel, and Genly I would never have sat down at my desk and used up my ink and typewriter ribbon in informing me and you, rather solemnly, that the truth is a matter of the imagination. So for me, making imaginary explosions was at the beginning eruptive, swirling, and accretionary like anything lithic. More than following a new question or subject, I wanted to evolve my way of creative practice. Conformism to capitalist art production suggests that an individual artist should fabricate a series of reliably identifiable yet incrementally differentiated discrete works that are consistent with a personal brand. Desiring an anti-capitalist aesthetic and a practice of queer phenomenologies, I searched instead to create a personal universe through the promiscuous proliferation of forms and subjects across media and held in relation. I wanted these works to describe their own pluriverses and to build a world through collaboration with people and agents. To give this assembly a form, I called it a cosmology, and its method is world making. Cosmology means different things according to disciplinary lineages. In the science of physics, the cosmos is a spatial abstraction that encompasses astronomical bodies. It describes unfathomable physical scales and that which exceeds the bounds of existing knowledges. Within theology, anthropology, and cultural studies, cosmology can mean ontological ordering and origin storytelling that found the basis for material relations and ethics within a group. Concepts of cosmology within decolonial and queer feminist intellectual traditions deploy the term as a container for grand abstractions alongside fierce desires that expand across societies, epochs, eras, and movements. Yet their divergence from Western metaphysics is to insist upon the existence of a multiplicity of counter-hegemonic cosmologies that overlap and interact, but that do not necessarily correspond to each other and may even be incommensurable. World building is a craft of imagination and willful strategic change employed across a variety of sectors, from statecraft to literature, from risk assessment to gaming, from toxic waste management to social justice movements. Amidst the disappointing rubble of humanism's and modernism's deceptive promises and underlying violent authoritarianisms, a pluriverse of cosmologies, at once ancient, syncretic, and evolving, envision alternatives to existing dominant orders of oppression. They refuse to be subsumed into a single order. Drawing upon these worlds and intellectual traditions, my use of the term for imaginary explosions is to mean both cosmology as a conceptual perspective interpreted through its narrative stories and aleatory images, as well as cosmology as an aesthetic method of diffracting meaning-making across a multiplicity of works and forms. The pieces within the cosmology are best understood as facets of a world composed of a larger assembly of works and ideas, pointing towards an even larger set of possible practices of more than human relationality and post-human performativity, which was one of the suggested readings by Karen Barad that I sent to you all. Recognizing cosmological world building as both a craft and a philosophical framework, Imaginary Explosions engages with the embodied forms and substantive politics of creating a world in which the human is no longer at the center. The main characters are the volcanoes. My artistic research aligned within this collective turn is to consider how to make sensible forces of the unseen, the micro-political, the mineral, and the inhuman. I work across videos, sculptural instruments, computational media, and poetic texts to bring these porous membranes across beings into the realms of meaning through aesthetics, media, metaphor, semiosis, and affective encounters. I operate within the intimacies across the inhuman and the non-living. Informed by methodologies of disability theories and queer phenomenologies, my work aims to translate aesthetic forms of communication across sensory modalities, while being in relation to inhuman alterities and non-normative bodies. How can we understand and interpret the inhuman world? How can we practice other ways of being in a body? Imaginary Explosions engages with the embodied ecologies of power, nature, and technology. It proposes what other presents and futures become possible once we begin to think beyond the framework of the human and the animal and into our shared subjectivities with the non-living. So now I will dive into this, sharing with you some clips from the other videos. So, oops, Iceland. Okay. So just to give you a sense of the imaginary explosions and its other forms, this is an exhibition view from Joan in Los Angeles from about a year and a half ago, where there were 3 episodes of imaginary explosions that were made into kind of narrative videos that also have smaller, shorter looping video components, textile pieces that you can see here called vistas that are created from the radar topologies of planetary geographies, including the exact volcanoes that are featured in each episode. So the one on the right is Eyjafjallajökull in Iceland. That is the subject of the first episode. And then there's also Chaitén, Chile, which is the subject of episode 2. Also our big dumb rocks, which you see on the platform seating arrangements, and those are large volcanic rocks made into kind of comically heavy amulets that are featuring rocks that are collected from all of those sites and various forms and textures, both material and digitized, kind of move throughout all of the different forms of the cosmology. So those big dumb rocks amulets are also laser scanned and featured in other video forms like the one you just saw, where they have these it's kind of a virtual double of the material relation. So part of the intention of the work is to work with computational imaging and see how these forms of media can traverse across different material forms. And so the first episode, AF Yet Yayoko,
Okay,
yeah.
sorry to interrupt. Do you mind making it full screen because it's difficult to see actually?
Oh, it was full screen. Was it not appearing full screen to
We
you?
see you for half the screen and we see the screen as like,
Okay. Thanks
Maybe
for
just like a standard type of screen share would be, because then we get the full picture. Because right now it's like just in a box above your shoulder, so to speak.
Yes.
Yeah.
Thanks for letting me know. It's really, I'm seeing only my screen, so
I know it's yeah, perfect.
Okay, yes. Yeah, so here are some of those images. That's strange. I'm sorry. I was also moving through different images, and were you seeing these?
no, we didn't.
Okay. Sorry for that. I think, yeah, there must have been a glitch. So let me try, and do you see the video?
Yes.
Okay. So so I'll just show you a beginning clip of the first episode, which will be a few minutes. And the method of making these works is to improvise with artists and scientists and media technologists to formulate everything based on a plot. And the plot that we improvised around is that there is a kind of secret conspiracy of trans feminists across the globe who are conspiring to carry out the desires of the mineral earth, which is to erupt all volcanoes simultaneously. And so they are in the service of the mineral earth, and they're trying to interpret the communications through various affective encounters. So with this plot, all of these videos were kind of co-created with other artists and assembled kind of like afterwards. But I can talk more about that process after I show you a few clips.
I can only describe it as a number of imaginary explosions. I want to talk to you about what is happening, but the feelings are so overwhelming it's hard to find words to describe it. I walk around in my day-to-day, disoriented but moving. Making lunch is a pleasure. It feels like an accomplishment amidst all this turbulence. A quiet, little soft boiled egg with salt, crackers, cheese and a tart, sliced apple. an assemblage of nourishment for my flesh to metabolize. But inside I'm changing and massively hungry, like an acid gas had imploded, disintegrated my organs and left behind hardened deposits of sharp rock. When I feed an egg to my stomach, I sense it disappears down a dark, long shaft into a molten cavity that is still mineralizing. Maybe egg is not the right food for this inhuman appetite. What should I be eating? I'm becoming a hollow cavity with a core of rough mineral accretions, then a substrate of bone, and then a thin mantle of skin. I remember you telling me about your transformation years ago. I never quite understood it until now. I want to talk to you about it. Has everyone in the network changed like this? Is it possible I'm becoming mineral like you? I've also been feeling connected to desires I never knew I could have. I get raging hot all of a sudden and I have to shake it off. It seems a huge event is imminent. I think these are communications, but I don't know yet how to translate them into human language. Are you getting signals? And the snails, are they sensing something too?
En Islandia, el volcán ha sufrido una reactivación en los últimos días. Este martes continuó expulsando lava y la nube de ceniza se tornó más oscura que en los últimos tiempos. Este sábado se cumple un mes desde que el volcán entró en erupción, ocasionando el cierre por una semana del espacio aéreo europeo y provocando la...
Okay, can you hear me now?
Yes.
Great. So, with imaginary explosions in the Eyjafjall Jökull episode, just to come to the kind of reason why I think you're meeting and working together, this work might be relevant to your methods, is to think about, science as fiction, fiction as method, and how different media forms of proximity and distance can describe a place, a feeling of a place, a character of a place, its story. And so in this first episode, to go into some of the different forms that I was working with to think through that, I was thinking about deep time and how deep time is something that we as humans have to contend with, but have always to contend with it through metaphor and through a kind of fiction informed by science and scientific methods and storytelling through deep time, through myths and heritage of stories from our ancestors that tell the story of the land as it may have behaved in the past, because especially with geological formations and forces and natural forces that extend far beyond a single human lifetime, we have to rely on all of these different kind of methods through deep time to reach us and tell us about them. So this was an interesting moment, the eruption of Eyjafjallajökull, that was that really interrupted all of the technology and global systems of the modern world and inhibited travel. And so in this work, I wanted to employ all of these different ways of proximity and distance, of actually filming with the site, on the site there, in its presence, the sounds that you heard at the very beginning, with the images of the snails over the blinking digital video, were all from an active geyser from that site. And what you're seeing here is in the vistas is kind of time-based snapshot of the radar topology of the site that actually does breathe with the changing surface of the Earth. And then earlier, at the very, very beginning, which I'll just play the sound once more so you can hear it, is a sound of the seismic activity of the Eyjafjallajökull volcano that was composed by Yun Lee, who's the first figure you see in the images with the snails. I'll point them out again in a moment. So this deep sound of the deep rhythms was what they were working with to translate and sonify that movement and create it into a bilateral audio composition that works with the human nervous system, that in a way moving across from ear to ear in the right and left hemispheres of the brain to kind of activate a stillness inside of the nervous system. So in all of the different episodes, the methods I use are to incorporate the collaborators and the makers who play fictionalized versions of themselves. So this is Yoon Lee, who composed in collaboration with me the seismic composition, and then this is Ray, who was also collaborating with Yoon on other works when we happened to find ourselves at the Schloss Solitude. And so we were all improvising together this kind of story of being the characters. The snails were also kind of happenstance figures who appeared when it rained. And so then they also became characters in the film who represent a different kind of media, or a different kind of slowness than the slowness and eruptiveness of the volcanoes, but also a different kind of time basis for time and communication as the rapid cycle of media, and how we view live stream images from across the world provided through media, or from phone cameras and independent forms of media that also kind of break into a different cycle. So, and then in the second episode, in Chai Ten, which takes place basically at the foot of the Chai Ten volcano in Patagonia, in a cave that where I joined a volcanologist and archaeologist team to go to the foot of the volcano, where there was these sites covered in stone carvings and paintings of vulvas and hybrid spider vulvas that were from waves of human inhabitants from most likely around 6,000 years ago, and that had been continuously inhabited at the foot of this volcano, and they were doing the first archaeological dig of this site, and so again, thinking about deep time media and how they reach us and in what different forms. This is just a short, I'll just play the very beginning of this video here.
Holes. Holes are gaps or shapes, negative shapes. The cutout, voids, sponge the shape. You have to fill it in, either with your imagination or with some stuffing information or another material. In this case, the material is data. Data of echolocations across distance and time are assembled into a cloud mesh with a resolution of discrete points. Data describes a topography, the lithosphere, a warping surface of metabolizing rock. Like breathing, the deformation of its surface tells us some things about the movements and expansions of its magma chambers. To be in deep time is to follow non-linear movement across materialities. Stones grow in our bodies from minerals we consume, just as our blood resembles ocean water. We retreat from the human to perceive the scale at which the Earth's lithosphere becomes as elastic as the sea. It is to be in two places at once. We are contemporaries to the past, and the horizons of futurity are colored by a haze of the present. It is difficult to choose one faceted edge from which to trace the porous networks of geological time with social histories and geometries of power. But to be a human body moving through space, time, place, we will choose one such perspective to set the scene.
So, reintroducing Yoon, who appears in this episode as the composer of this awful stone piece. So you actually only see their hand. This episode also features a number of different collaborators, and just to kind of emphasize, thinking through your collaborations and possible investigations together. The filming of these different episodes also took place in many different spaces and time, and also with people sending me footage of different things and different media and materials. So that was the case with collaborating with Yoon on this, for example. And another artist and researcher and media technologist, Nicole Louillet, whom I think was also...
She was with us last week.
Amazing, yes. So, in many ways, a lot of these works for me are kind of performing in or assembling in a space and in a single space, a kind of honoring of these creative practices of people whose work I admire, and to create that kind of network that is fictionalized in the videos in a real way, but in this real fictional, mixed zone. And so Nicole's work was actually she created the composition that you heard at the very beginning in the introduction. And that was a piece that was a collaboration of hers with an artist named Daniela Catrillo, who's a philosopher, poet, writer, and teacher, and activist with the Mapuche people in Chile. And so Nicole's work is also, and Daniela's work are kind of threaded throughout this piece with their collaborations and contributions as they also play fictionalized versions of themselves. And this is, sorry for buzzing through stuff. This is Karen Holmberg, who is the volcanologist and archaeologist who invited me to accompany them to the caves of Vilcún. And so throughout the episode, this was all shot on the site where they are doing the research, and also archaeology itself is a kind of imagination and trying to place oneself into the deep time of the previous inhabitants of this space. And so I was witnessing them and being there with them as they were kind of imagining and trying to position the stories of in the past and the relation of space and site. So it features also Karen's work and some of the other archaeologists who are in that site. But the beginning that I showed you, what I wanted to point to is also just again to sort of emphasize how this array-based information of the technosphere, of this global planetary imaging that is often data that's received that we as like normal people, I guess, or whatever we are, as artists and designers, are often reliant upon these large infrastructures to provide us information about the world at this scale. And so to always maintain a kind of open criticality about what other kinds of histories and power paradigms are encoded within that media. So it's not a rejection of the information that we're receiving from these structures, but rather how to incorporate them in proximity with other stories, with embodied histories and non-Western forms of knowledge and feminist forms of knowledge that can tell different stories and can recombine them into different visions of the world. So, in this image is actually a very good moment of how across place and time, this was, three different shoots, three different geographies of creating these characters and assembling them together in the same space as a dialogue. And all of this stuff is kind of improvised. So Chaitan there was a second episode, and then I'll just show you a brief clip from the third, which is Artifice, shot in Germany because of the pandemic, and featuring the work of Sasha Engelman, who's one of the members, founding members of the Open Weather collective, where they use, well, I'll let her explain because she does in the video a little bit, but I was working with the notion that volcanoes actually also give many different kinds of signals, including lightning and ultrasonic sound that can be perceived in satellite systems, and that Sasha was receiving signals via weather satellites. Okay.
Weather is often understood to mean the condition of the atmosphere in time and place with respect to things like heat, humidity, cloud, fog, and snow. However, weather has always had many other meanings. So in Enlightenment Europe, the smells of flowers could be part of the weather, or shooting stars could also be part of the weather. But in the recent kind of upheaval and planetary crisis that we have all been weathering and facing, a number of scholars have begun to talk about the weather as more than meteorological. Open Weather is a project that I'm collaborating on with researcher and designer Sophie Dyer. And we're really probing the porous boundaries between bodies, atmospheres, and weather systems using amateur radio, open data, and also feminist approaches to environmental sensing. Satellite imaging in general is a very fraught and geopolitical and also very asymmetrical industry. The satellites that we are able to decode signals from in open weather are NOAA 15, NOAA 18, and NOAA 19. And NOAA stands for National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration. And this is an American government-run institution linked very heavily to both NASA and to the military. They're also the last satellites that transmit analog signals. That means that all the newly launched satellites will transmit digitally. And that really has a lot of implications for the kinds of images it is possible to collect, and also who can collect those images. we have set up this system of instrumentation for the network. It allows us to capture images and sounds from polar orbiting satellites that circulate around this geographical location for several times each day. The more than meteorological weather has been developed by writers like Toni Morrison, Christina Sharp, or Claudia Rankin, really as a way of speaking about how power is exerted through institutions with different kinds of material forces and how power weighs and presses on different kinds of bodies, particularly the bodies of impoverished people, women, and people of color and indigenous communities. Weathering is a verb, so to weather the current crisis is really to endure and to survive in ways that are really asking much more of these communities than of white or affluent people. So one of the reasons why in open weather we value the analog transmissions is that there's often a lot of noise and interference in the image itself, which for us is a really interesting and kind of allows us to see more of where the satellite is moving and get a sense of when it is dipping below the horizon or when it might be obstructed by certain kinds of tall buildings. What I understand about continuous radio frequency is that this is a kind of radio interference that is emitted in the very high frequency, or VHF, part of the radio spectrum. And I understand that it happens when many sort of tiny lightning bolts kind of emerge and occur while a volcano is erupting. And these kind of tiny flashes, or many sort of tiny lightnings, they emit a lot of noise in the VHF part of the radio spectrum. Volcanoes are also part of the weather system. Volcanoes produce ash clouds or lithometeors. And these ash clouds can block out the sunlight and can very dramatically change the climate system of the planet. So I found something very surprising for the network. There was continuous radio frequency emanating from Berlitz. However, to our knowledge, there is no active volcano in this region.
So I'll pause there and begin to wrap up my presentation, but just to note that in Artifice, in this third episode, another layer of media that I was working with are maps, which are these world building tools not always, but are a feature of empire. And so at the beginning, I was showing Baroque forms of mapping these different gardens, and gardens themselves are kind of a world in and of itself that is a model for the rest of the world, or can be a kind of practice space to space. And in colonial Europe and in Germany here, where the much of the filming took place, was in gardens that were to try to model conditions in other geographies and other spaces in order to kind of model how they might then build a world on top of the colonies, or to bring the colonial plants and features back into Europe. So there is this transposition of space that was part of empire, and the different ways of modeling and mediating the earth that have been part of that part of the Western colonial empire as a feature of its notion of the planetary. So that's kind of the one of the stories and different layers of media within this episode, and mixing as well how that operates in the contemporary moment through satellite imagery, and our connection through the atmosphere and the weather. So I will stop there for now. I mean, there's a lot of stuff that that I didn't get to go into, but maybe we can go into a little bit more with Q&A if I understand that as the format. So thank you for your attention thus far.
Thanks,
Thank you
Caitlin.
so
That was
much.
amazing.
Thank you so much, Caitlin.
I'll keep it over to you, Avril. I'll let you take over the responsibilities. You're also more alert at this hour of the day.
That's true. I think it's what, 6:30 where you are in the morning? 6 o'clock, 6. Okay. So I wanted to ask you a few questions regarding your practice. You said definitely you're a writer and a filmmaker as well. And I personally love writing, creative writing and filmmaking, documentary making. And I'm currently working on my final body of work as a final year student. And a lot of it is based on first taking from the ideas of Italo Calvino's Invisible Cities, and kind of working with the seen and unseen, as well as multiplicity, and then kind of zooming in from the idea of cities to then the microbe, and then from the microbe then to the psyche. And so I was very interested in ideas of metaphors that you used, and the idea that I also liked this line, I wrote it down. I really like the line where you said, what cannot be said in words is symbolic and metaphoric. And in that way, a lot of the times, the things that we can't see act as metaphors. So we use the natural world as metaphors for a lot of human activities. So I had a question for you. How does a volcano or volcanoes in general work as a metaphor in that sense, but also like as I see it, it's sort of like a liminal space and a boundary between what's under and what's above. So how does it kind of work as a metaphor for you, and how do you place it within your practice?
Thanks, Avril, for such a thoughtful question. Just one thing to note is that the very beginning quote that I gave was actually Ursula Le Guin, not from me. But I see the way that she, her kind of contradictions in that beginning quote are a lot about how I might respond to your question, which is that it's just as you're talking about with microbes, for example, they really are. It throws into question what is knowledge anyway, and what is evidence, because when we think about what we can know, and what is knowable, I often come back to the fact that we really don't even know ourselves. Like we think that we know who we, as you know, Caitlin Berrigan, might know myself, but actually I don't know myself entirely, and I can never know myself entirely. And I must always have position that knowledge in relation to other people. And so I know myself through others. I know myself through the world that I've grown up in. I know myself and the world through all of these different relations, and what is told to me about parts of myself that I can't see, and that are also present within a creation of subjectivity. So with metaphor, I think that what's really amazing is that metaphor is also a kind of evidence making. It's a sense making. It's a tool of sense making. And so with volcanoes in this work, I was thinking about their role in many different forms, as kind of we are co-created as human subjects, as human animals, with the ecologies of a planet that is itself shaped by volcanism, and that condition of the planet and how we can conceive of it is also informing our how we can respond to its rapid climatic change due to anthropogenic pollution and global warming, and how we have then conditioned the altered conditions of the planetary. So so in a way, actually, Karen talks about this, Karen Holmberg, in the second episode, how she sees her work as as a volcanologist and archaeologist, looking at how human populations have lived with volcanoes and their eruptive time episodes, and then how the volcanoes can rapidly change the environment, either through changing the soil, terraforming the atmospheric changes, and how that itself can inform us in the present moment for rapid climactic change. And it's certainly not the same thing, but it gives us more information. And yet, at the same time, just to point to something else that you mentioned in the quoting Ursula Le Guin, is that she also talks about how she couldn't have said what she said in words. She had to write the novel, and she had to write the novel through characters. And so I feel that that's also the role of creative work and metaphor, is that I don't feel that I could have, and this is why I always feel like talking about the work is inadequate, because it is about creating those sensory moments of time-based media and the different forms of proximity and distance and alienation and identification that can occur through all of these different media forms. So in that sense, the carriers of the material messages are also themselves carriers of metaphor that can't be then replicated in words, although words can live alongside them to accompany them in that sense making. So I hope that answers a little bit, but it's exciting also to hear that you're working with that together, because yeah, language and poetics, like for me in the filmmaking process, are really a fun part of wrapping it up.
Yes, that's really interesting. Thank you so much. I think in general, yes, a lot of the idea of metaphors really interested me, but I mean, if anybody else has any questions based on Caitlin's practice, definitely go ahead.
I'm just mindful of time, so that maybe we should probably wrap up in about 5 minutes, if that's okay. Yeah. I have a question, but I want to leave it for all of you. But there's one in the back of my head that I have ready to go if no one else has anything to share. All right. Well, then I will ask the question because I was really interested. I think it's so interesting this like the way that you're bringing these different worlds into kind of into a common narrative. And by that I mean the world of the snail, the world of the volcano, the world of the microbe, etc. But I'm wondering too, because I think one problem that I can imagine you really face in working through these various mediations, through these various characters, etc., is the sort of tendency that we see in part of the sort of non-human, inhuman discourse of like the return of the anthropomorphization of everything. So I was wondering if you could talk about how you, because I think your works really successfully escape that tendency. I think that's like kudos to you for doing that. But to talk about how the self-consciousness of that risk, right, of like speaking about through metaphor, which is a human, we assume a human tendency or human a vehicle to create a relationship to reality without doing that anthropomorphizing and forcing those critters or entities human-centered into a human-centered world, let's say.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I think in many cases, yeah, when I talk about decentering the human and not putting the human at the center, it's with the knowledge that I am a human being and I'm positioned within human culture, and these are human culture mediated forms. On the other hand, it's also to point towards how we are already created by and with other beings. And so beings meaning animated forces, that they don't have to be living beings. So in the case of like the geological forces, our relationship to site and space, so it's to try to understand that we are also co-created by those relationships. And I think that in the other texts that I shared with you, M. Murphy's work is really great in this regard, because I do believe that there's a lot of incommensurability with different forms of knowledge as well as different beings, and yet we don't need to abandon or just kind of give up at that limit and that boundary of incommensurability. We still have our ethics. And so one of the things that I kind of chose as an ethical framework for the imaginary explosions cosmology was to receive the signals from the geological forces and not to speak as the volcano, not to give the volcano voice, but rather the eruptive forces and the subterranean forces and its liminal spaces and sites come through in by filming and observing through photographs through time, through people's narrative accounts of what they hear when they're listening to these sounds, through the seismic activity and all of these other remote sensing technologies that we have. But then also in each one of the episodes, there's always an emphasis upon interpretation. And then the practice that I'm trying to point towards for artists is how can that practice be a politicized one? And when we think through embodied, situated perspectives, through cultural filtering, through power paradigms, through ancestral knowledge, and how those frameworks position our interpretive capacities. So that's a kind of practice that I want to share as a method, for people to intervene within that interpretive process and to claim it as a human meaning-making process, and yet always that as humans we are informed by these forces, and it just inhuman forces, but it's recognizing how they shape us in power, that informs our meaning making and sense making in human communication and in human ways. So I hope that's a beginning for what is really, I think, key question. Yeah, thanks.
Thank you so much, Kathleen. This metaphor of volcano was also something that reminded me of The Volcano Lover by Susan Sontag, and also the shift and the turn from fiction, from history to fiction in the novel was something that I was thinking of. Yeah.
Yeah, well, that The Volcano Lover is featured in episode 3 a little bit. In so far as, yeah, I mean, it's maybe a longer answer, but it was it was a book that a friend of mine recommended to me when I started this work many years ago. And what I love about this novel by Susan Sontag is that it the volcano as a metaphor for radical political change is for revolution is kind of how it's figured in The Volcano Lover. But at the same time, there is an actual volcano in this story, and then the role of the metaphor and the volcano play two different roles, and they're both kind of damning, and they both sort of like squash the short-sighted desires of empire. And so this was also a little bit what I was that features into the storytelling in the 3rd episode of Artifice with the world building of the models, is that the garden Dessau is actually it is modeled after Sir William Hamilton's villa and the volcano that he observed, Vesuvius. So there's a miniature pizza oven-sized Vesuvius in the park, and it was built in the 18th century by a prince who had visited the villa, and after he heard about it through Goethe. And so there's like even a kind of like direct relationship to that somewhat absurd. It's a very absurd place, but it's also itself a kind of metaphor for the early empire world building projects of Europeans and of Germany. So yeah, there's a lot there, but thanks.
Will film be accessible for us to see somewhere? All right. Okay.
Yes, I can share with you all the links to the full links to the video episodes. They're about an hour in total, altogether.
Thank you so
Thank you.
much.
That's super generous of you. I'm just looking at the time. Sorry to be the like party pooper, but because we want to make sure we get a little break and then we have enough time for Sneha's intervention. So I think we should probably, I'm just looking for nods of affirmation around the Zoom. But yeah, Caitlin, that was amazing. Thank you so much for your generosity and also talking a lot about the methods. You know what I mean? I think that's really helpful to learn from. And yeah, I think there's going to be a lot to discuss with the students, with the groups, how they're approaching, especially bringing in potentially all these different ways of tackling a similar issue and like integrating it into some sort of narrative form. I think it's really inspiring. So thank you so much for joining us today.
Yeah, such a pleasure. So nice to meet you all and talk with you. And if you have questions about more, technical kinds of questions about the collaborating across disciplines with people, acquiring these kind of non-normative forms of media and data and working with these kinds of data sets, just, write me and we can talk more, because that is, a kind of practice in and of itself. So I'd be happy to do that. Thanks for having me.
Thank you. Oh yeah, you get all the hands. Shall we do a quick break this time? Not 15, but 10 minutes so that we have a bit of time, just like get a bit of stretch. So come back at Yeah, 10 minutes.
So 4-5 for here.
Yeah. Okay. See you in a minute. Nice to see your class, Priyesh. So are we slowly making our way back?
While are you in Delhi?
In Delhi.
Yes, join please.
All right. How are we doing? Is everyone kind of coming back? Getting ready for round 2? Avril, will you be introducing again?
Nishtha would be the one introducing.
Okay, wonderful,
Nishtha is
Nishka.
here with us.
Perfect, perfect. Hi, everybody. So welcome back. And then I believe I'm passing over the microphone and master of ceremony over to Nishta. Is that correct?
Yeah.
Hello. Well, thank you so much for doing the facilitation, and I will hand it over to you.
Hello. So I'm going to introduce Dr. Sneha Krishnan. So Dr. Sneha Krishnan is a professor at the Jindal School of Public Health and Human Development at UP Jindal Global University, where she researches environmental and public health issues in contexts of conflict, displacement, and post-disaster recovery across Africa and the Pacific region. She holds a PhD in environmental engineering from University College London, focusing on community resilience to disasters and conflicts. As the founder of Environment, Technology and Community Health Consultancy Services, Dr. Krishnan advocates for women, children, and marginalized groups in environmental and public health. Her work is driven by a passion for addressing inequities and fostering sustainable development. In addition to her academic and consultancy work, Dr. Krishnan is actively involved in studying cinema and culture. She writes about films and curates screenings for the festivals organized by Film Society Bhubaneswar, Odisha. Through her writings on films, she explores themes related to health, environment, and human rights, enriching community dialogue and promoting critical discussions on pressing global issues. I welcome Dr. Krishnan now.
Hi, thank you. Thanks for the silent slow clap. It's so embarrassing when people read your bio. Uh, Thank you, everyone. I'm so happy to see familiar faces. Apologies if I'm uh, inaudible and I keep shifting all the time because yeah, it's one of those days when you can't sit, you can't stand, you can't talk. Um, but it's so exciting to see, like I was almost thinking if I should change my presentation after hearing Caitlin speak, because we were going to make the same arguments. So I'm going to flip the model in a way by having each one of you talk. There are going to be some prompts along the way. So I would really, how many are there in all? How many students total? In general and in
Altogether, roughly let's say 30, 28, 27.
we have 30 in the class today?
Upper 20s.
Oh, can we quickly do like a quick like they unmute and they talk to me? Yeah.
Sure.
So tell me your name, tell me where you come from, and tell me your favorite food. Like, what is your favorite food? Like, you would kill to have that food. You will not share it with anybody. What is that? So everyone, I think everyone can do this, huh? Patricia, you, Priyesh, you, everyone.
I urge you to just jump on, let's be anarchic, just jump in there.
Yeah, or you can nominate each other. So I'm going to nominate Patricia and then you finish and you nominate someone.
Oh God. Okay. So Patricia, I am originally from Canada, live in Berlin. I'm in Canada at the moment, and my favorite food. Oh my God, I can't think. I'm gonna go with Szechuan hot pot right now because it's like edging into winter. So we'll do that. And I'm
You have
gonna
to tell us more. No, you have to tell us more about the food. Sorry.
I need to tell you more about the food.
No, because not everyone would know, right?
Szechuan hot pot, you share it with a lot of friends. It's very spicy. You put a lot of veggies in, tons of chilies. It's a delicious way to get through the winter in cold Berlin.
You slow
Uh,
cook it? Sorry, I'm just going to take questions here right away.
yes, you have a pot in the middle. You slow cook it. You chat. You have a little tea, maybe a little beer. You discuss with your friends, and you pick out the things. You fight over the little things in the pot, but it's a shared meal. And
Nice.
it gets very cold in Berlin, so it's good to have spicy, warm food to warm up. And then I'm going to nominate. I'm going to go with Gary.
Gary.
Yeah, so hi, my name is Gary. I'm French, and I would say my favorite food is the typical French plate called fondue. It's just like melted cheese, and you put bread in it, and you go for it again and again. And I would nominate Adam.
Hello, I'm Adam from Poland, and I haven't thought about my favorite food. Um, Juice? No. Okay, quick but honest answer. I've been having a lot of risotto lately, so I would say my current favorite food is risotto. I see Italians around me are very happy, but
Where are you
yes,
from, Adam? Sorry,
a nice
where are you from, Adam?
nominate.
One second, Adam.
Else.
Where are you from? I missed it. I missed hearing you. Can you hear me, Adam?
Yes.
I missed when you said, where are you from? No, I think you can't hear me. Okay.
No,
He's
they're trying to
Poland,
adjust. It would
Poland,
be
originally Poland, but in the Netherlands.
okay,
for a
okay.
bit.
Sorry, yeah. And whom did you nominate, Adam?
Justin.
Justin, okay.
Hey, I'm Justin. I'm from Cologne in Germany. And my favorite food, or the food that I would like to eat most in this moment, would be pho, the Vietnamese soup. Because I'm kind of sick at the moment, and I think like it would be nice to boost my health. Yeah.
Amazing. You want to nominate?
Yes, I will nominate Bianca.
Hi, I'm Bianca and I am from Italy. And the food I would love to eat now is a traditional Sicilian plate, which is arancini with aubergine inside of them and salty ricotta. Thank you.
You want to nominate?
You got to nominate somebody from one of your peers from
I will
overseas.
nominate Arjun.
This is really fun online when you're doing it online.
Am I audible?
Yes, now you are.
Yep. So my name's Arjun. I'm from India, and my favorite food is, well, actually, I have a couple of them. Let's see. My go-to would be spaghetti and bolognese. Um, yeah, the Italians here look very pumped, clearly. And then my second one would be teppanyaki. It's basically Japanese grill.
Where are you from, Arjun?
Chandigarh.
Wow.
It's a it's a medium-sized village. Let me put it that way. No, but
Thank
I
you.
live in a big city, so don't worry.
No, I'm like, where did you get bolognese in?
Oh, I live in Bangalore, so I just go back and eat there. But
Okay.
the authentic one is in a pizzeria in Rome, I think, if I remember correctly. Yeah.
Nice. Thank you. Arjun, do you want to nominate someone before you turn?
It's some, right? Oh dear. Who do I nominate? Life decisions, bro. Life decisions.
Anyone who is in front of you.
Okay, let's nominate Avril.
Hi everyone, I'm Avril and I'm also from India, but I'm from Mumbai. My favorite food, I have a couple, but at the moment it is chicken Caesar salad. And also I really love gnocchi, which is potato dumplings, and anything falafel.
Nice. Thank you. Avril, you'll have to nominate someone.
And I nominate Sabah.
Hi, I'm Sabah. I'm from Delhi, and my favorite food is rajma chawal, which is red beans and rice. And I would like to nominate Professor Payal.
I am Payal. I am from Pune. And the food that I'm craving now is vada pav, which is, yeah, found in Pune. So,
So nice. Thank you, Payal. Do you want to nominate someone?
oh yeah. Who do I nominate? Suhasini.
Hi, Suhasini.
Hi, I'm Suhasini. Am I audible?
Yes, you are.
Yeah. So I'm from Noida and originally from Uttarakhand anyway. So my favorite food is at the moment it's rasgulla. So to explain, it's like
Yeah. It's like sweet dumplings
it's a
in
sweet,
a bowl of sugar
spongy
syrup.
dumpling. Yeah.
It's like sweet inside and sweet dumped in a sweet syrup. So it's like, yeah.
Sweet all.
It's
Yeah.
mine too. Thank you. Thank you, Suhasini. You want to nominate someone?
I nominate Khushi.
Hello, I'm Khushi and I'm from Meerut, India. And my favorite food is, I don't know actually, but to choose one, I would say biryani. So it's like rice with vegetables. Yeah.
Oh, you don't eat meat, Suhasini. You don't like, she's vegetarian.
Yeah, I'm vegetarian.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cool. You want to nominate?
I nominate Kea.
Hello everyone, I'm Shreya. I'm also from Pune, like Pal ma'am. And I think I would say my favorite food would be like a chicken kati roll. It's just a chicken roll basically. So yeah, thank you.
Is it found in Pune or anywhere?
I think you get it mostly everywhere, but there's this one specific place in Pune that I really like it from.
Thank you. Sorry, whom did you nominate? Priya. I can't.
Yeah.
Okay, Kea. Okay. No, Kea nominated somebody. Whom did you nominate?
Oh, sorry. I nominate Meher.
Meher. Okay. Hi, Meher. Can you hear us? Can you unmute?
Yeah, hi. I'm Meher. I'm from Tamil Nadu, and
I'm not sure about my favorite food, but I like anything to do with chocolate.
And you nominate?
I nominate Gunika.
Hello, I'm Gunika and I'm from Jharkhand, India, and I think my favorite dish is litti chokha, which is found in both Jharkhand and Bihar.
And do you
And
eat it all? No, wait. Do you eat it all throughout the year or just during winter? Or is there some?
I eat it all throughout the year only, whenever I go back home. I nominate Arya.
Hi, my name's Arya. I am from Chennai, Tamil Nadu, and my favorite food would be sambar rice and chicken. I don't know how to explain sambar though. It's like dal, but like a little more complicated, I think.
Yeah. Mostly had idlis and pancake, like Indian pancake. Yeah. Thank you. Did you nominate Arya? Sorry.
I nominate Nishta.
Hello.
Hello.
So I like the homemade chocolate cake my mother prepares at home. Yeah. And I nominate her. Hello, my favorite food will be mirchi bada, and I'm from Rajasthan, and it's a very common snack there. And I mostly eat it for breakfast.
Like a chili fritters made of chili.
I would like to nominate Manya.
Manya. Yeah, you're muted, Manya.
Hello everyone, my name is Manya and I'm from Lucknow. And it's famous for kebab rolls, but my favorite food currently is thukpa, which is a Tibetan noodle soup dish, and it's made with buckwheat, and it's flavored with like dry fish.
Manya, why don't you
And I
nominate
nominate
from your team, from your group?
Sorry?
Why don't you nominate someone from your group in the Netherlands? You're all nominating yourself.
Who do I nominate? I nominate Priyesh sir.
No, it's someone in Netherlands. Yeah. Next time
I
we
think
do.
all of us have spoken.
Okay.
Arjun and Arya.
Okay.
Netherlands.
I'm Priyesh. Yes, I'm Priyesh. I'm from Rajasthan, and I'm teaching here at Jindal. I was thinking of some other dish, but when Gunika mentioned litti chokha, I was thinking of dal bati, which is very similar to litti chokha, but there's a version that, not a version actually, a very separate dish that exists in Rajasthan, which is very similar. Just that there's no stuffing inside litti, which is bati. Yes. There's a feedback.
That's okay. You will have to nominate Priyesh.
I nominate who is left.
Nominate one of ours. Nominate
Ellie
one
is
of
left,
ours.
right? Ellie.
Ellie,
Okay, I just go. Yeah, my name is Ellie. I'm from Germany. My favorite food is lasagna, and I nominate Emilia.
Hello, I'm Amelia. I'm from Melbourne in Australia, and the food that I'm currently craving is my mum's chicken soup with like matzo ball dumplings in it because I'm really sick at the moment. And I nominate Juliette.
Hi, I'm Juliette. I'm from the Netherlands, and I am currently really into pancakes. And I nominate Elena.
can I ask you,
Hi
Juliet?
everyone, my name is Elena, and
Sorry, Elena, one
something
second.
happens.
Juliet, do you like the savory
Yeah.
pancakes or the sweet pancakes?
We don't hear that.
Sorry. Yeah, Elena, if you could mute.
Hear us, Juliet? Did you hear us, Juliet? Because Snehal was asking if you prefer savory or sweet pancakes, or if it's all pancakes.
I think she can't hear us. Yeah, can you hear us?
Doesn't
No.
seem to be.
Yeah, okay.
Then
Sorry,
Elena
Elena.
is on.
Please go ahead.
Elena's coming over here. Hi, sorry. My name is Elena. I'm from Italy, and if I can say that my favorite dish is pizza, yeah.
Oh, there's
And who do you nominate?
always, every time I do this, there's one person who has to
I
say
think
pizza.
Jason, yeah.
Any specific toppings? Sorry, Elena, could you come back?
Invent a
She's coming
blasphemous
on this side. I think just tomato sauce base with fresh tomatoes, buffalo mozzarella, and basilicum. Yeah.
Very good.
Nominate somebody now. Elena, you're not done. You what is the rush, man? You gotta like nominate somebody.
Yeah, I just nominated Jason.
Hi, Jason. Jason, could you unmute, please? I am making spicy kimchi scrambled egg.
Jason, you're up. You're up, Jason. Can you hear us? We can see you. I can see you're in the academy. Can someone tap on him and let him know?
It's just that Jason doesn't like our space, so he goes in the contextual space.
Okay. Okay. So someone's got to run over. Good.
Yes. Ellie
But
just
the
ran
audio-
over, so
Is the audio not working? Why can't people hear us when we speak?
I don't know.
Who else is remaining till Jason comes in? Gary, did you speak?
Yeah, Gary spoke. It's a fondue.
Sushanta. Sushanta?
Yeah, I'm from Kolkata, India, and I love fish curry and rice. And I would like to nominate Sneha.
Okay. Is Jason on now? Jason, can you hear us? No, he's still audio problems. Okay, so I am Sneha. I'm from Bombay, but I've lived almost a decade in the UK and then half a decade now in Sonipat. So I actually, it's been like years I do this exercise whenever I meet a group of people, and I am amazed how every time someone takes the name of a dish, I start craving that immediately. But my go-to answer has always been rasgullas, the one I think someone already mentioned. Yeah, it is something that it still brings water to my mouth, and then I can feel the texture. I can remember the last time I ate it. I can remember the competitions that I've won for eating as many rasgullas. So there's always like so many stories that come to my mind when I think about my favorite food, which is, I'm sure, something you all can relate to. Jason is here, so before I get into my monologue, let me get to hear what Jason had to say. Jason? Can you unmute, Jason?
Well, hey, well, there was a troubleshooting. My name is Jason. As you see now, I'm talking from Ellie's computer because mine, I don't know, it doesn't work out. So I'm from Greece, and yeah, my favorite dish. Well, that's well.
You're going last. You had so much time
Let's
to
say
think
pizza.
about. Yeah, no.
I mean, I have a lot of favorite dishes, but the one that comes to my mind right now is just a pizza because it's like a comfort food, like comfort dish. Like
What toppings?
what toppings?
Mm.
I don't know. Just but something, but without without pineapple on top of it. Everything without pineapple. So yeah.
Oh, good. Good. I'm
I
so
think we haven't
happy.
heard from Emma. I don't think we've heard from Emma.
Okay. Emma, can you speak?
Can you hear me? Sorry.
Yes,
Yes.
Okay. So I'm Emma. I'm also from Italy. And well, Ellie stole my lasagna, so I'll probably go with focaccia, which is kind of the bread of the pizza, but like very oily, very salty, and it's so simple yet so good. So that's mine. Should I still nominate somebody else?
I think everyone is done. If there's anyone
Okay.
who's left, do you think you don't know theirs, please do nominate them. Otherwise, as far as I can see on my list, I don't quiz me on whose favorite food was what, but I really enjoyed your expressions and your anxiety and your excitement to choose that one dish, which is the perfect setting for today's discussion. Sorry, is there someone who's not yet shared? Okay, okay. So I wanted to talk about politics of
Cheese
like
or chicken?
sorry, there's someone who
Can
has
we
to.
just to make sure everyone's muted and then we give Sneha the floor? That'd be great.
Okay. So we will, at some point, if time permits, speak about politics of land and nature and naming things. And I hope you remember this exercise because when you spoke about the food that you liked the most, there were memories associated with it. There was a place that was associated with it. There was familial relationships that it elicited in you, your mother or your current state of being. If you were ill, what kind of food did you think of? Depending on the place, depending on the people that you are surrounded with. If someone named your favorite food, you chose the second one. So remember your relationship to the food that you spoke about and how it brought out different reactions in not just you, but also your friends, the excitement. Um, because this exercise is something very similar to what I am now moving on in my practice when I talk about disasters. For almost a decade, I trained in disaster management and I went on to work with different organizations and academics. I went back to academia to do my PhD and I did a research on like how to build communities resilience to disasters. And each word in that title of my thesis or the topic that I told you was as alien to me and to the community that I was studying, to the communities that I was studying, because of this alienation of language. Um, I have slides, but I'm not going to go through them. I will share it with you at the end. But when we talk about the crisis of climate, I'm not sure if all of you or if some of you have not encountered, but Amitav Ghosh, the writer, uh, he talks about it in his book, The Great Derangement, that the crisis of climate is actually a crisis of the imagination because when we tell stories about community, stories about people in literature, in literary fiction, normally it ends up being a person's journey, and disaster often is either in the background or the foreground as a plot point. So someone has to overcome something, and the disaster either helps them or breaks their journey further into disintegration. But there are very few stories or plots which actually do justice to how individuals and communities and societies break down or recover from disasters in the first place. So this is me in 2015, quite jaded after the end of my PhD because the community that I was studying in Assam was washed away once again. So during the course of my ethnographic research, the communities that I was trying to study would face a flood every year. So in 2011 when I visited them, then back in 2012 and 2013, they were displaced almost 3 times. And so in 2014-15, when I'm trying to write my thesis, I end up going to other places. So there was a cyclone in Orissa and earthquake in Nepal. And everywhere, the questions that I take with me are so alien to the questions that the community themselves have, that I started realizing that perhaps it's the framing of my problems, the research that I want to do, which is different from the experiences that the communities that I was interested in and they were experiencing themselves. So there was this issue of framing and the need to have a conversation about that, which I thought was important. And I think it's 5 + 4, 9 years after that, and I still find myself not having the right answers. And that's why I'm actually going to ask you the questions to see what answers you have. So we will be doing this exercise of everyone unmuting themselves and speaking at the same time. But I'll also give you like a minute after I ask these questions for you to write down. So even if you didn't get a chance to speak out in the loud, you at least have a record of these questions with you. So the first question, first prompt that I have for you all is, 1 second. Share what you can see from your room. Name it, describe it. Where you are right now, or if you came to this place, what was that one thing that you saw when you walked to this place? Or if you're sitting next to a window, if you can see outside, what is it that you can see?
Do we have to say it at the same time?
Yeah, if you want. So those who have a copy of a book, you can write it in your notebook. If you prefer to send it on the chat, I think that is also something exciting. Then you don't have to speak out. Is anyone next to a window in this group? Everyone seems to be in a studio. I think Payal and Sushanta may be able to see something from their window.
There's a park in front of mine.
Others can write in the chat box. I'll give you all a minute.
I'm seeing lots of skeletons and pumpkins. I'm not delusional. It's because it's Halloween decorations. I'm in North America, so it's a little, there's like hands coming out of the ground and there's a lot of like fake blood.
Very scary.
Those who are in the studio, do you remember noticing anything on your way to the studio this morning or this evening when you went there? You can unmute those who have already written. Or shall I take names?
Don't be shy, people.
Bianca, we go with you.
You're muted.
Hi, do you hear me now?
Yes.
Sorry, it's just we have like one computer with the speaker, and so if we okay, sorry. I see a brick wall.
Right now, but when you came, did you observe anything in the nature?
Sorry?
When you came to the studio, did you observe anything? Did you notice anything?
not that much because I live 2 minutes from the academy, so each time is really like going straightforward. But maybe today I noticed dried flowers, and I was thinking of how the seeds are gonna fall from the dried skull of the flower now in this period.
Amazing. Thank you for sharing. Arya, I think you had raised your hand.
Sorry, I keep raising my hand by mistake.
No, but now you have to tell us what you saw on your way to the studio in Jindal campus.
What do I see?
Outside in the nature.
In the nature. Like right now?
Or like before you came to the studio.
I usually look at flowers. Yesterday I saw this really pink furry looking flower. I don't know what it's called, but it's I keep noticing that.
Pink color flower.
Yes, pink. Bright pink.
Okay. Anyone else who accidentally wants to raise their hand? Or I'll take names. Justin?
When I look outside my window, there's this big wooden shed where people store their bikes in, and they are slamming the doors all morning long. And right next to it, there's a tree with some of green leaves left, but most of them are brown and yellow and start falling down.
Thank you. It helps to have a window. Anyone else who has a window and wants to share? I'm just guessing. I think Gitti, are you next to?
I think they've written in the chat.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, there are 2 responses.
I see a garden construction site. Okay, I'm next to a window looking at a large countryside. The street, but only through the apartments. Both Gary and Gitti, do you see any natural elements outside? Can you see any birds or trees or flowers or plants?
For me, there's a giant tree that's taking up about 1/3 of what I can see outside the window.
Are you able to name the tree?
No, I can name some of the birds in it.
Can you share?
There's these little green parrots, which are a very strange thing to find in the Netherlands, but they're exotic birds. But they were imported here, I guess.
Thank you. Thanks. Anyone, it's an open invitation. I'm not going to be calling everyone. Suhasini, you said there is a long pathway of trees that leads to the studio. Do you want to share if you can name any trees or plants or?
I'm not really sure. They're just regular trees.
Someone says dogs. Sabha says dogs. Juliet says from our studio, we only see the tops of the trees because we are on the 5th floor. Okay. I think the invitation that Amitav Ghosh's provocation takes us about climate crisis being actually a crisis of imagination also emphasizes the role of language. If the things that we see and we observe or which are actually fading and we lose the vocabulary to name them, to identify them, to describe them, to observe them, deficit of language is also deficit of attention. I'm sure there must be natural elements from whichever studio you are in, but not having the vocabulary to describe it doesn't mean that they don't exist, doesn't mean that they frame the place where you live in. So when you talk about the politics of nature and the politics of ecology, you also realize the importance of language and our ability to name them, our ability to see them, observe them. And this small exercise actually is an increase out of puff. Okay, thank you, Arya. I saw your message. So I actually want you all to this time just take 5 minutes and write down names of five um, either trees or birds or clouds or rocks or anything that you have seen in your campus. It doesn't have to be today. It's just five names that you know. If it is difficult to think about something from your campus, you can think about something from your hometown. If you choose bird, then write down five birds. If you choose tree, then write down five trees. Or if you choose clouds, you can choose five names of clouds. It doesn't have to be in campus, and it can be in your hometown. So 5 minutes. Arjun, um, okay, I'll paste the prompt on the chat. Arjun, can you think of five same category stuff? Like if you wrote coffee, can you think of five different types of coffee? Or Has everyone finished? Okay. We'll go back to this prompt in a bit. I just wanted to drive home the point that most of our learning, most of our experience sharing, and most of our conversations are so devoid from the rootedness of the place that we live in. For example, those who are in Sonipat right now, what is the kind of vocabulary you have to describe the trees that you find in your campus? What are the different birds that you see? How did our educational and pedagogical ways become so divorced from the places that we study? When did we start receiving education where we can't we can't connect it to the place that we are studying in? This was something that I started questioning when we were all resorting to digital teaching during the pandemic. And in my classes, often I actually make it a point to share what I observe in my garden on a weekly basis or on a seasonal basis. So this summer, just before it got extremely hot, I brought in a few caterpillars who feed on milkweed. I'll show you some pictures. So it's a weed that grows randomly in many areas, and it's often cut off and thrown away. But if you start looking at its connection to the ecology, you start seeing that they host these butterflies. In the American continent, they are known as the monarch butterflies, which actually travel all the way from Canada, the northern parts of America, to the southern parts, and they make the journey from there till Mexico, which is where it will be summer. And they lay their eggs, the caterpillars are born, and they perish. So the generation which flew down to Mexico perishes. And then the next generation grows, and then they go back to Northern America. They make the return journey. So these are these tiny objects, these tiny things which traverse continents, traverse miles, and they keep this intergenerational memory. So when a colleague told me that actually we also have a similar kind of butterfly, which is of the same family, they are called the tiger butterflies. We got them home, and we were trying to see how these caterpillars grow. It was very informative. I'm going to show you pictures in a minute's time. There is also the connection between climate change. Because we think milkweed is not important, milkweed is has no productive value. They are often cut off whenever there is construction or whenever you want to landscape your garden. And they also don't survive in the heat. So just after we did this experiment in April, in May it got extremely hot and the milkweed would just become brown. So the green plants are now becoming brown, which means that the caterpillars don't survive in that heat either. So a lot of research has actually gone in to show how the decline in milkweed also has resulted in the loss or decrease of monarch butterflies population. But to see it right in front of our own eyes, it was extremely marvelous. So without speaking, using words to explain what I'm trying to say, I'll show you some images. Hopefully it all works. So I'll share it in full screen. Can you see it?
Yes.
So that's the milkweed leaf, which is the food for these tiger butterfly, the caterpillar. I don't know how many of you remember your science lessons where we learned the metamorphosis of caterpillars to butterfly. But this is the first stage. They are very tiny when they hatch from the eggs, and then they start feeding on these leaves. And then after they grow to a full size, they find some kind of a stick or a twig to latch onto. So here I was using an Amazon box to give them some kind of support and few twigs. So you can see there is a pupa there. And there is a new caterpillar which is trying to become a pupa soon. So it's a time-lapse video. Did you see that? You want me to play again? So that's the caterpillar which goes inside. And then it stays there like for almost a week. The one that you see next to it, it's almost a week. Like there are two. So there's this white one and there's this brownish one, which has been a week old. And then when they hatch, this is how they come out of their pupa. Yeah. This is a video, yes. This is just like 15 minutes after they hatched. And not all of them survived. This one has a broken wing. Still learning to walk. You want to see that again? Any video you want to see again, you'll have to tell me, okay? Sure. So that brings me to my next question, which is how many of you know different words for butterfly in your language? It can be not in English. So butterfly in different languages. Hindi is the easy one because I know general most of you would speak Hindi. So what do you say a butterfly in Hindi?
Italy.
Thank you. Any other languages? Marathi? Anybody? What about Dutch?
Schmetterling in German.
Sorry, can you write that, please, on the chat? Papillon in French. Yay, Emilia. So you know two different. One is French, and what is the other one? Schmetterling in German. Okay. Parpar in Hebrew. Okay. In Marathi, anybody who's from Bombay, do they know what is it called? Payal, do you know what is it in Marathi?
It's full park through.
Sorry?
Full park through.
Full Pakharu. If there are points that I could give out, Kea gets a few. I know there was someone from Tamil Nadu. Do you know what is a butterfly in Tamil? Sorry, Emilia. We hope you can join us next time. I hope I can join you next time. Patricia, could you read what you have written?
Sure. It's
Yeah.
Farasha in Arabic.
Oh, nice. Thank you. Anyone who speaks Tamil? It's my mother tongue, and it took me 6 months to get the answer. Someone, Arya, are you Tamil? Bengali? What do you say it in Bengali? Bangla?
Yeah,
Sushant?
it is called Prajapati.
I will command that, yeah. No. Sorry.
It's called Pattambuchi in Tamil.
Okay, few more points. If I had any points to give out. Kia, Arya, and of course Sushanta gets a few full pakru. Because these are languages I speak, and it took me quite a long time to figure out what they are called. So the invitation now is for all of you. You listed down 5 different things. Many of you sent it in chat. Can you think of names for these in your own language or in any other language? Spider. So people have written about spider. Arjun, well done. People have talked about trees, different birds, ants, grasshoppers, insects. Attempt. Please attempt. Ginger tea, black tea. Oh, I love the responses to the prompt. Five minutes? Or you might need more.
Hi, Sneha. Just gonna let you know that normally we can go a few minutes longer, but actually our seminar is sort of scheduled to end now-ish, just to give you a time frame. Yeah? Cool.
5 minutes to write
Yeah,
down,
yeah, yeah.
you know, in your own language.
Yeah.
So to underline my basic point, which is in a lot of literary texts you would find, especially in Ghosh's writings on the Sundarbans, he tries to describe the floods in their own language. So in Bangla, it's either Borna or Borsha, and with each word, the uh, the intensity of the rain defines the experiences that communities have in those rains. But I think the word for cyclone is something like that. So each natural phenomenon has different words in different languages, and the communities use those words when they try and speak about it. But when I go and ask them about floods, or when I go and ask them about cyclone, how their experience was, it already puts me at a distance from understanding their experiences in those natural phenomena. So some of the conversations that I have following this exercise is, how easy or how difficult was it for you to explain something which is very natural in which you are surrounded by, in a language which has now become alien to you? Any reflections? Can anyone try and tell me how was the exercise of not only trying to name 5 things in particular kinds, but also describing them in a language which is not English? This one, I think everyone has to speak. So yeah, if not everyone, at least majority of them. Bianca? Yeah.
No, I said sorry. I said I wanted to say bye because I have to go. I'm sorry.
You can go, but can you just summarize your reflection from the exercise? How easy or how difficult was it?
It was interesting, and it's something that I partially do sometimes. So I kind of have the mindset of this kind of exercise, but it's really, I never practiced in that way. So like on chat with someone and like seeing the interactions, and that is really more interesting, is different. But yes, I enjoyed it.
Can you nominate someone and go? Can you nominate somebody before you go?
Sorry. I nominate, let's see who's here. Emma?
Thank you. Emma?
Yeah, quickly have the prompt again. The
Can you
question
hear
again.
me?
Oh, all right.
Yes? No?
I'm so sorry.
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay. So about the translating part, I think I'm getting more comfortable now, but like still when I'm taking notes or like writing down my stream of consciousness, I feel more comfortable still expressing myself in my own like mother tongue. But I feel like while getting notes during the seminars or classes, I'm more and more getting comfortable also in expressing myself and writing in English too. And yes.
Thank you, Emma. Can you nominate somebody?
I'll nominate Gary.
Yeah, I would say that the difficult part was not switching tongue or languages, because it was simple words, but it was difficult to remember what I saw and what I encountered during the day and every day. So yeah, it was more difficult to put an image and a word than switching between the language.
Thank you, Gary. Thank you for that observation. Can you nominate somebody, please?
Yeah, I can nominate Justin.
Thank you.
So I started with the German words I knew of the animals I picked, and then I had to look them up in English, And I found that to be really interesting because there were some examples where there were parts in the word that had like different connotations, and you just like when you hear them in different, like when you just look at the words, you have different associations in mind, just like regarding the like different elements of the words. For example, there's the Kellerasse, it's the German word, and Keller is the basement, and usually you like find them in the basement, but in English apparently it's woodlouse, and I also like remember them being under uh, like old trunks or like fallen branches in the garden of my parents, and when I picked them up, they were underneath as well. So it makes sense, but you like you think of different things when you just look at the word, and I found that to be interesting.
Thank you so much for sharing. Justin, could you nominate someone, please?
Sure. Susanta?
Yeah. Yeah, it's interesting exercise, and that's a popular idiom, not lost in translation. So I always feel that two things. I mean, when I'm looking through mother tongue and when it is a translation of water and jol, so it creates a huge distance to me. I mean, getting familiarity to it, and this kind of translation is really completely, I mean, it gives a different kind of sense of outside and inside. And there are many sort of synonyms I can bring in, but kind of pleasure to sense with the mother tongue. It's a different kind of test altogether.
Thank you. So Shanta, you will have to nominate somebody.
Yeah, Priyesh, vegetarian guy.
The exercise was quite. I, um, it created a lot of hustle in the entire studio. All the students are here. We were trying to, we were talking to each other, trying to find either the English word for it, or if something which um, they have local to their region. And I think that conversation was very nice to be able to see and to. Guys, I still. Yeah. So yes, and also there were few words that I could not find in English. Um, yeah, so that was.
Words for what? Sorry, like words
So
for
there
what?
are not to do with the food or plants, but there are some actions that are very specific to the region, uh, which cannot be translated actually. So
Thank you. Priyesh, could you nominate somebody?
I would nominate Sabah.
Uh, for me also, like it was difficult to translate most of the things into English, and most of the words you do not find. Like for neem tree, I do not know a word for that in English or in any other word. I also do not know a lot of uh, languages, but like I only know Urdu and Hindi and somewhat Punjabi, but not a lot. So yeah, it was uh, to really think and make your mind engage in translations is a task, and at the same time, it's quite stimulating.
Thank you. Sabah, you will have to nominate somebody.
I would like to nominate Professor Payal.
So yeah, I was quite so I named trees and Mexican mesquite because I was doing a project in it, but I was just thinking that the translation is Desi Kikad. So even though it is brought from Mexico and it is colonizing the trees, taking away the resources of the trees here, but it's called Desi Kikad. So I thought that was quite interesting.
I'll nominate somebody.
Patricia, did you go?
I talk too much. I want to hear from Kushi.
Hello. So, I agree with the translation issues we have because there were some words which were in English and we know in English, but we don't know in Hindi. Like, I didn't know what is dragonfly in Hindi. So when I searched it, it showed something weird. Wait, it's called Vyag Patang. I don't know what it is. So, I mean, I don't know.
It's okay, Khushi. Thank you for participating. Do you want to nominate someone?
Yeah, I will nominate Juliet.
Yes, hi. Well, I don't know, it's more easy for me to name the words in Dutch and then translate them to English. I had three, so it's also really similar in the sense of how they are put together. I was just looking into Patricia's question, but I don't think I understand what you mean by reflecting on the distinction and similarities.
Okay. When she is like sharing her reflection, she'll speak about it. So do you want to nominate her back or do you want to nominate
Yeah.
someone else? Do you nominate her? Okay.
Maybe I nominate Gijit first and then.
Okay.
For me, translating from Hebrew to English, I felt very aware of exoticizing especially the plants I was naming because they're neat plants that appear in biblical stories, and so yeah, that's it. And now I can nominate Patricia.
Patricia, I think we want to hear from you and also like an elaboration on your prompt.
Yeah, it's just in a way to kind of bring together the two presentations, right? Because we heard a lot about metaphor from Caitlin this morning, and now we're doing this exercise of translation. And already it's just like when you're trying to read the signals or interpret or find modes of legibility in certain types of signals, right? For humans, that would be language. And of course, there are many natural languages, and we know the problems of translation, right? There's never this direct translation. But also even in the act of constructing metaphors, right? Especially on, let's say, non-natural languages. And by that, I just mean like, I don't know, chemical signals that is a type of language for an insect, for example, if the sweat that we exude is a signal, a communication for a tick, of how those different types of, like, maybe there's a place where metaphor and translation sort of intersect on those like types of making legible, but then the problems of making legible, right? Like there's this kind of sticky area that is really interesting that I think, I don't know, I was like thinking about the two presentations mapped into one another as a kind of fertile stickiness, right? Like there's not this thing. And of course you have the whole, the word is always it refers to the thing, but it's not the thing itself.
Thank you. Patricia, you want to nominate? I think.
Yeah, then I will nominate Gunika.
For me, I was recently just learning my regional language. So for me to translate it, it was very difficult to find words. And since I know Hindi as well, it was difficult to find words and then translate from Hindi to English to the regional language and find words in all three languages. So I thought it was a very good exercise. And to also, it was a very good exercise to how we actually don't have a vocabulary for our surroundings. And I found that very interesting. Thank you.
Do you want to nominate Punika?
I don't know who has not gone yet. Suhasini? Has she gone yet? Okay, so I nominate Suhasini.
My opinion on this translating thing is I think this exercise is quite interesting because it gives you an insight on how much of the language you know yourself. And I think like nowadays we mostly think in English, as for me. And recently only, like Bunika said, I am also trying to learn my language from my regional place, and it's quite difficult because it is similar to Hindi, but I'm not very eloquent in Hindi right now. But in childhood I was, but then later on, because English has been the main course of studies and reading and all, I have lost practice in speaking in Hindi, and so it was quite a shift to realize that what has happened in my language learning basis. But yeah, it's very insightful for me. I would nominate Kea.
Hello. Yes, so about this whole translation thing, I think it is quite interesting because you know, I know quite a few languages. I know Hindi, English, Marathi, Kannada. And then when I'm talking, sometimes like unknowingly, I will just say a word, in Marathi or in Kannada, and then my friends are like, "What are you talking about?" And then I'm just like at a loss of words because I don't know how to translate it. And even if like we're talking about the same thing, it's different in different languages, and so you know, yeah, just that.
Kia, anyone else left to nominate?
I don't know who's there.
So this is an invitation. Whoever has not spoken so far can go ahead and unmute and share. If I may add, I think Kia, I also have the same frustration as you, in the sense that I think it's easy for me to speak in different languages. And most of the time, communicating about crisis or describing an experience which you've not had. So the exercise that we did with the food and the memory. So if you say pizza, different people have different images in their mind. But when they start describing it with the toppings and how it is made and who all are invited or when do they eat it. So there are these memories which are associated with the food that we want to describe, right? Or which brings comfort to us. Similarly, the objects and the things that we are surrounded by, the deficit of language is also a deficit of attention. We are not paying attention to the things that we are surrounded by. And in a way, we are losing the vocabulary in any kind of language to be able to describe them, to be able to notice them. And it's the awareness which we begin with as a practice first, and then the effort to communicate it, and then the effort to communicate it in different languages. So when we try to narrativize the ecological crisis, the experiences of communities who are not us, who are living in extreme conditions, who are experiencing regular floods, regular cyclones, there is already a difference of frame. And to juxtapose these two frames is often not that easy, be it as an artist, be it as an academic, be it as a teacher. And even the format that we ended up using today is something that is flipping the nature of how we construct knowledge or how we deconstruct languages, how we try to describe a wood. What was that German word, which was woodspark in English, or something that lies under the wood? We know what he's describing, but the word and the memory of that object is something which is different for each one of us. So how do we build a narrative? How do we describe a crisis that each one of us is facing, the planetary crisis, in languages that is not only true representation of what we see and experience, but also is experienced and shared by others? I think that was what I was trying to get at. I don't know how easy, how successful, or how badly I tried and did it, but I really learned a lot from each one of you. So thank you so much. It was my absolute pleasure to be able to experiment with you all. Thank you for your participation.
I think Arya wanted to say something. So
Sure.
if you want to, and then we'll end.
Sure. I basically wanted to say that, similar to Suhasini, I'm not that familiar with my own mother tongue as well. So actually the words that I came up with, I thought of them first in English, and then honestly, like when I looked it up in Tamil, I wasn't even able to pronounce it. So I'm not familiar with like a lot of terms that way in my own mother tongue.
And just that reminds me, this point about colonial imposition. So English has become a common language. I don't know how different the experience of translating from Dutch or German or Hebrew was for the students from for y'all. But the imposition of English as something, as form of education, also applies to a lot of experiences that has now become a product of colonialism. It is true about land, it is true about forests, it is true about spaces, grazing land, meadows. There are different forms of land as well. So how do we start describing them in languages, which is something which is inherently alien to us? My mother tongue is Tamil. I can't read it. I was never taught it. And like Gunika is sharing, I also was trying to learn it myself, but I am not equipped anymore because um, who is there to teach you once you yourself are a teacher, right? So it was an interesting exercise. There are so many strands that we can draw from this. I will share the slides with you. We didn't go through the entirety of it, but that's the uh, that's the trade-off we make when we try to create knowledge together. So thank you so much. I actually wanted to invite Caitlin because she shared something on the chat, and also I think we do look at the same problems, but with different frames. Caitlin, please, could you?
Did you just want me to say what I added into the chat? Yeah.
Anything is fine.
Yeah. No, I mean, just thank you for this really wonderful framing I've been following the whole time. And yeah, it's just, I think it activates these questions so provocatively. And I just wanted to add to Patricia's comment around metaphor and translation. This interesting one of my favorite texts that's just very succinct around this topic too, where language takes many different forms. In Eduardo Cohn's How Forests Think, this text, how when he's describing in indigenous Amazonia, how the forest might communicate through either a signal, a gesture, or a kind of metaphor with other creatures and animals and humans, and that humans are not the center of language, but how to recognize different languages and their meanings, not necessarily always through direct translation, as you're pointing out, that there's really kind of like always a sort of other meaning that is fully situated within a place, and then other points when metaphor can come in to offer that kind of translation. So it's just something to follow up on, perhaps, at what you've been bringing out. So thanks for asking me to chime in at the end. It's been such a pleasure.
Thank you. Same here. Yeah, I think with that, I would like to thank each one of you for contributing actively. I know I was putting most of you in the spot half the time, but that's the benefit of being the teacher for 1 hour. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Sneha. Thank you, Kate.
So, Kathleen, thank you so much. Yeah.
Bye, everyone. Thank you.
Thanks, students.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.